Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for August the 6th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Thank you for being here. Let me ask you to check your mobile devices. Be sure they're on silent or mute. And Madam Clerk, I will note that all commissioners are present with the exception of Vice Chair Smith, who is still out on medical leave. As you come to the podium tonight, I'll remind you to press the button on the right so that the red light comes on and we can hear you and get a good YouTube recording as well. Pleased tonight to have Pastor Luke Lane with us from Burkemont Baptist Church, and we'll ask Pastor Lane to come and lead us in our invocation. And following the invocation, I'll ask you to remain standing. Our Burke County baseball team 9-10. What's that mean, Mr.
9 and 10-year-olds.
9 and 10-year-olds. Okay. I got you. I'm with you. Trying to fake me out, aren't you guys? That's the way a good ball player works. Okay. All right. Remain standing, and our baseball team will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So, Pastor Luke, thank you for being here.
Lord Jesus, we're thankful for this evening. We acknowledge that you are sovereign and just and holy. You're the all-knowing, all-powerful, ever-present God. Thank you, Father, for being in control. Thank you, Father, for the leaders that you have placed here over us, the county commissioners. Lord, we pray you would grant them your wisdom, help them with discernment, help them to know exactly what needs to be done for our county. Thank you for them, Lord. I pray you would bless this meeting tonight, that it would bring glory and honor to you. We love you, Jesus, and we ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You guys turn around right there and kind of come together. We're going to come around and get a picture. All right. Thank you, boys, for being here. Coaches, parents. Moyle is my alma mater, so I'm right there. All right, gentlemen, that brings us to item number 4 of the agenda tonight, approval of agenda. You've had the agenda for review. I'm not aware of any changes, so gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Barron. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 5, approval of meeting minutes. Gentlemen, tonight we have meeting minutes of June the 1st, 2026 pre-agenda meeting, June the 15th, 2026 regular meeting, July the 20th, 2026 regular meeting, and July 27th, 2026 Board of Health meeting as presented. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Those in favor signify by uplifting hand. Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All four, Madam Clerk. Brings us to item number 6. We have several presentations tonight. First one coming from Burke Recovery, recognizing September as Recovery Month. And this will be presented by Dorian Kishner at Burke Recovery. Good evening, Dorian. Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. So, as you've heard, my name is Dorian Kirshner. I am the Drug-Free Communities Coordinator for Burke Recovery. I've been working at Burke Recovery for about 3 years, working closely with the community and other agencies to better help people that suffer from substance abuse disorders. So today I'm going to be reading the proclamation declaring September 2026 as National Recovery Month for the City of Morganton. Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and one's overall awareness, and whereas treatment and prevention of mental health issues and or substance use disorders is necessary and treatment can be effective, and whereas overdoses and overdose fatalities in Burke County have been a persistent issue, and there has not been a corresponding increase in treatment rates or treatment facilities. And whereas preventing and overcoming substance use disorder is essential to achieving healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally. And whereas we should endeavor to educate relatives and friends of people with substance use disorders so they will be able to assist with preventative measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And whereas substance use disorder is a major public health problem that impacts society on multiple levels, and whereas the use of fentanyl and other dangerous opioids, as well as substances being laced with potent sedatives, is a significant problem in our community and other communities nationwide. And whereas to help more people achieve and sustain long-term recovery, Burke Wellness Initiative and Burke Substance Abuse Network invite City of Morganton residents to participate in activities which will be held to recognize National Recovery Month on Saturday, September 5th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Catawba Meadows Park. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Morganton does hereby proclaim September 2026 as National Recovery Month in Morganton, North Carolina, and call upon citizens, government agencies, and public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in the City of Morganton to increase awareness and understanding of substance use disorders and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with substance use disorder.
Thank you, Dorian. Appreciate the work that you guys are doing here in our county. Gentlemen, you have the resolution that references Burke County all throughout, as well as proclaiming that the Burke County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims September 2026 as National Recovery Month in Burke County, North Carolina. Gentlemen, any questions for Dorian before we vote on this proclamation? Seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve proclamation number 2026-10, declaring September as National Recovery Month in Burke County, and take a commemorative photo. We will.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stroud. All those in favor signify by uplift the hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. All right, let's step down. We'll take a photo together. All right, that brings us to item number 2 on presentations coming from the Board of Commissioners, proclamation of NCDOT Litter Sweep Week. And gentlemen, if you'll refer to your agenda, we are happy to support DOT. Of course, you guys know that we constantly are in the litter business. We do it year round, and we appreciate our folks at DOT also emphasizing during the week of September 12 to 26 as North Carolina Department of Transportation Leader Sweep weeks in Burke County. Gentlemen, you've got the proclamation. I won't read a whole lot of this. Maybe I'll just touch on a couple things. Whereas the natural beauty, abundant natural resources, and exceptional quality of life enjoyed in Burke County are treasured assets that should be preserved through responsible environmental stewardship. And of course, we spend lots of times on our roadways picking up trash. We have an easy mechanism on our website for folks to help us target some of those areas. We have other folks in the county, Lake James Environmental, along with many other groups that help to pick up all areas around the lake and throughout the county. And so with just those few remarks, unless there's other remarks or questions, we'll entertain the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve proclamation number 2026-11 proclaiming September 12th through 26th, 2026 as North Carolina Department of Transportation Litter Sweep in Burke County as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Barrier. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 3 tonight comes from our tax administrator, real property revaluation and the property tax rate, presented by Travis Isaacs tonight. Good evening, Travis.
Good evening, Chairman. Thank you all board members for letting me come and speak this evening. I think this is kind of the ongoing presentations we're going to do the next maybe 3 or 4 board meetings. So I'm honored to speak for the tax office in the county tonight about the reevaluation of schedule values. And each presentation will try to reiterate some things and bring in some new things into the process of the reevaluation that's coming in January of 2027. One of the things we want to talk about was our task force. Our task force, we had a great meeting this past Tuesday, a lot of discussion in that meeting. They brought a lot of good input. So we're really thankful for this task force. We have a very diversified task force and a lot of years of knowledge, whether we have former county commissioners who've been through several reappraisals, knows a lot about the process and helps us make sure that we stay on track. We also have the director of water and soil for Lincoln County. He's actually a Burke County resident and on a lot of committees, knows the landscape. We have a insurance company owner who's been in the business for 50 years. So he has a lot of input, whether how real estate markets are moving, kind of verify what we're looking at as we're moving along with our sales comparisons. We have commercial real estate developer. He kind of makes sure we have input on our building rates, our square footage rates, all those things that we're looking at as we work on our schedule of values. Real estate agent and developer with about 40 years in the business. He was actually at our last meeting and enjoyed his conversation. I hadn't met him before, so he was really good to talk to. And then we have a general contractor and home builder. And then we have the tax administrator. And I have about 25 years in the tax business, county and state. So I've got to try to bring all my knowledge to this and kind of help move things along, make sure we have fair and equitable and transparency along the process. So, and that coupled with our tax appraisal office, us working together with that team, hopefully we'll make sure that everything is good to go when we come to January 1, right? So what is a property tax revaluation? It really just resets the values across the county. It only touches the land and the buildings and personal property, which we value on an annual basis, like your boats, your cars, and your unregistered vehicles, planes, things like that we list on an annual listing cycle. We try to do a periodic reevaluation to reset those values to make sure that we're spreading the value out and the tax burden across the county, because some properties appreciate faster than others, right? So that tax burden must be spread out. If it wasn't, some people proportionally pay more than they should. So that's why we're trying to do a reappraisal to reset those values. And the value does not really just generally set what you're going to pay. It's just our job in the tax office to come up with a market value. In this process, we look at neighborhoods. We try to look at similar neighborhoods and compare those. We look at their acreage size, the types of homes they have, the characteristics, and come up with a square foot rate for those houses and the land rates. We look at the land and building prices across the board. Our sales really drive what we're looking at. And then we do field office reviews. We'll go out in the field, we look at permits. We try to make sure our measurements are correct. We try to make sure we have the right number of bedrooms, 2-car garage, 1-car garage, whatever, concrete driveway, paving. We try to look at all those characteristics. And then we'll move forward and we'll have a notice of appeal, which means at some point we will send out a valuation notice sometime in January, February timeframe, so we can work on informal appeals and get those set up for the board ENR if we need to. So one of the main drivers of a revaluation is qualified sales. And mostly, and I did a little pie chart reviewing what we've been doing, and about 70% of our process, we're using verified qualified sales, which means arm's length transaction between a willing buyer and a willing seller. Either one's not pressured to buy or sell, right? So we're just trying to make sure that everything is on the up and up, because sometimes there are sales that are way too high or way too low. You might have sales between family members, or you might have someone that just comes in and says, I want that piece of property, and they pay whatever, way over the market value. So we try to kick those out. We use 3 types of approaches. We use a sales comparison, income, and cost. We use the cost approach on certain unique properties that we don't have a lot of sales on, or they may not be able to determine what the actual price would be by the income that they produce, or there's no sales to look at. The income approach will look at your rent basis, whatever you're trying to draw into, how much cap rate you have on certain industrial businesses. We'll try to look at those businesses and come up with cap rates. And I'll speak a little more like if we don't have a cap rate or we don't have a comparison, what do we do? When it comes to vacant land, there's an economies of scale, right? So 1 acre might be in more demand than being able to buy 5 or 10 or 20 acres. It's easier because one person might just be wanting to build 1 home. It's easier for them to buy 1 acre than it would be to manage 5 acres. Those might cost. So if we had an acre just for valuation purposes, $100 for 1 acre, if we bought 5 acres, it might be $68 an acre. But still, we're spending a lot more. And there's fixed costs, like you have to do perk tests, make sure you can build on the site. All those things might go into how much it costs to purchase that property. So it comes into supply and demand as well. It's almost like going to Costco or Sam's Club. The more you buy, cheaper it is, right? So that's kind of the way it works. What happens when the data is thin? We try to look at when we have rural areas or somewhere we have a neighborhood or market area where we don't have a lot of sales, we may have to look at other types of ways to value that property. And there are nationally recognized organizations that look all across the country that we can pick out what compares to Burke County or our region. We can use things like Marshall and Swift. They look at the cost and can give us good cost replacement cost tables to look up market values for homes, the building cost. We can look at regional MLS sales to real estate brokers to look what properties are selling for in certain areas that are similar to Burke County across our region. So it gives us a larger pool to choose from. Also, we can look at North Carolina Department of Revenue. They do sales studies for all counties. We can look at counties that are comparable to our county. And then there's other industry guys that help us do our cap rates and things for our industrial properties that may not be similar to us in another county, right? So there's all kinds of ways that we're trying to incorporate to make sure that we're getting the correct value. And if we don't have enough information for some areas, we can blend all 3 approaches, but we are looking at all 3. We are required by the state to make sure that we are looking at all 3 approaches and choose the best one that applies. So as we move forward, we're always testing our sales ratio to make sure that it's correct. And what I mean by sales ratio is the state requires us to do a study every year. Every county must submit one. And once we go above or below a certain level, we must induce a reappraisal. And that's what we did in 2025. We got a letter from the state. They said within 3 years, you have to do a reappraisal. So that's what's driving us today. We've been on a 4-year cycle. So that's what we're trying to do, is set that reappraisal and get our tax values correct and make sure that we're dispersing the property values correctly. So what we try to do is get a median ratio. We have a number of sales. We try to look in the middle to try see where our values are at. And what I mean by values is we have a set value in 2023. So now we're looking at what properties are selling for now. So if it goes below 85.85, then the sales mean that the sales of now are higher than they were in 2023. Right? If we went above 1.15, it means our assessed value in 2023 is higher than the sales today. So we might have to lower our values, which is not the case, unfortunately. So coefficient of dispersion means that we're looking for a tighter number. The smaller the number, I mean between 5 and 15 between our sales, and our median means that our number is pretty good. The higher it goes, the more we need to look into the value that we're looking at to make sure we've got it right. And then there's a price-related differential that we'll look at. We might have properties that are commercial properties. You really don't see many of those sell. You might see one and you really don't know the rent on another one. You might have to look at those ratios to make sure that we have the value weighted correctly. So coming probably next month, we'll probably come up with our outline for a schedule of values. And what that does, it determines our building types and construction quality. Right, we'll come up with our base rates for what it costs to build a home per square foot. You'll be able to look in our schedule values and say it costs $115 a square foot to build a house. Right, or you may be able to look at an industrial property and look at our cap rates for each size. So we'll also have grades in there to look at and have our depreciation factors for each type of property. And then we'll also have the land value schedules and neighborhooding adjustments. So not every property is the same, right? So we try to do neighborhoods that are similar. We have market areas. Some market areas have more sales, some don't. So we just try to make sure that we get all those correct and we apply the correct schedule to that. So like I said, in September, we'll have an outline. We'll probably kind of bring that to the task force meeting. Then October, we should have something to present to you for review. So these are developed by market analysis. We draft the manual. Then we actually set up for public review, and you'll have those schedules to look at for about 3 weeks. Then we'll go to a public hearing and adopt those schedules, and then someone will have a 30-day appeal period for that. Okay. And preparing for the 2027 revaluation, we just want to say the task force at work, the appraisal staff's at work. So if you see the appraisal staff out in the community, I know it's probably not the best thing. You see the tax person pull up, but they're trying to do their job. Try to be as cordial as you can, but we're trying to notify when we show up at your property. So we just want to make sure that our people are recognized. They are doing a good job, and most of them are from here, and so they're just trying to do the best they can. And another thing, we're trying to create a transparency goal, and I think that's the whole goal here. Say, hey, you come look at our numbers. You have people out in the community that are actually observing what we're doing and making sure we're following the right processes. And then we'll have that schedule of value adoption. And as we move forward, we'll have our values set, and we'll continue to work towards our appeals or anything that we need to fix. Any questions from you, John?
Are the people in the field wearing yellow?
Excuse me?
When the people in the field going out, are they wearing yellow?
No, they're not wearing yellow, but they're wearing some Burke County representation. We have it on the side of the cars. We have hangers and things where, we're at your property. We try to ring the doorbell, make sure we announce that we're there. We have certain parameters and guidelines that we try to follow. When there are open permits, that's kind of free game a little bit. We can go in and measure those things and look inside if we need to. So some people are not aware of that, but when you have open permit, it's kind of gives us kind of free range to kind of look around. But when we're coming to a house that's built and we don't have a right measurement, we try to notify, hey, we're there, and don't want to intrude on anyone.
All right, thank you, Travis. Any other questions for Travis?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Travis, a couple different things I was just curious about. One is, it's part of my hobby time is spent clicking on in GIS and kind of looking at land and values. And I know it seems like I find a lot of, I guess it's present use value land, property,
sir.
vacant land.
Yes, sir.
Are those all gonna be reviewed to make sure they're following the guidelines that are?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Actually work with that department right now to make sure we get a better plan on how we review those. It's called an audit, really. We have to audit an eighth of those every year.
okay.
So that's kind of the plan we're working towards.
I was just curious because sometimes I find places that I think, I don't know that they're not growing forestry and logging it, but in my lifetime, I haven't seen it. And,
Right.
they got 30 acres and they're paying tax on $26,000 and the rest of us are footing the bill sometimes.
And some of those plans are like 20, 30, 40 years. So
Yeah, it could be.
before you cut the woods, because,
Just-
so we have to have a forestry plan to do that. But yes, sir.
Yeah,
We
okay,
are
thank
auditing
you.
those.
And then another question I get asked pretty frequently is, there's one instance I can think of right now where a family built a $1.5 million house in an area that the rest of the homes are probably $50,000 to $80,000 maybe, pretty inexpensive places, older homes.
Right.
And they're voicing this concern that, oh my goodness, that's going to affect our taxes like crazy.
Well, it could affect the land value, maybe, not really the home value. And that's kind of an outlier we would have to look at. We would not say those are exactly the same. We would have to review that market area, make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So we're doing that.
Yeah,
That's our main thing right now is we're reviewing market areas, make sure our data's correct, that we have everything drawn correctly. We know the grade, the quality, the sizes are right. And also the county purchased Eagle View, which are pictures of every property that we can. And if those are good pictures, it helps us with our drawings and everything to make sure we got stuff right. So, if I had a $1.5 million house beside mine, I would worry about that as well. But it's really up to us to make sure that we're going to see that sale and where it's at. And we're going to be like, no, we can't, you can't compare that to everything else.
yeah. And then the final question, I guess, that I have, so I'm trying to understand it. Let's say this revaluation is completed, we adopt the new values, which we all know there's been a lot of inflation, so we anticipate that's going to be a lot higher than what it is. And then just for my purposes of thinking, let's say the commissioners at the next budget year say, well, we're going to again be revenue neutral on our tax rate. So perhaps we lower that. In that situation, because of the values are so different everywhere, I assume that some people, even though the bucket of money, we went revenue neutral, some areas could still see an increase in their bill and some may see a decrease.
That's correct.
Am I understanding that
Yes,
correctly?
because some people's property appreciates faster, like I said. So we're capturing that tax burden when that property appreciates like it does. There are some folks that will pay more in tax according to the rate. Everything, they both work together, right? The value you're prescribed with providing services for the people of the county, and that whatever rate you have to set multiplied times the value is going to give you the tax bill. But yes, it could go up and it could go down.
Yeah.
But if your value is going to kind of stay steady, you really shouldn't see an increase in your tax amount, but it could.
Yeah.
There's no absolutes kind of in this when we're kind of forecasting out this far what we're going to do.
I think last year at the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, our conference, one of the classes I went to was property tax. And I found it fascinating that, they did a great job with that class. And even they said that sometimes you're just going to get things wrong. And that's why we have the appeals process.
Correct.
And so I guess that's the remedy. If as a citizen, we feel like that doesn't seem right, then we can fill out that appeal.
Right. Well, it is mass appraisal, right?
Yeah.
So we can't put boots on the ground at every house to make sure. So that's why we won't do process to have the taxpayer come in and say, hey, you got my square footage wrong. I have 3 bedrooms instead of 4. Things like that. And that's why if you have questions, you call us, we look at your property record card, we can make sure we have things right. If not, we'll come out and look at it. And hopefully that's why we try to get our value notices out as soon as we can, so we can deal with them informally and make sure we can make those corrections like clerical or measurement errors.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you all. Yes.
Trey, one quick question. You just mentioned we want to make sure there's 3 bedrooms instead of 4. In what part of the process, the permitting process, do we determine the number of bedrooms? Is it driven by the number of lines in the septic system? Is it driven by the original plan? How do we determine that?
It's usually driven in the original plan, and the septic size will kind of help guide us if we don't know that. But sometimes all those plans could change from the initial permit, and we may not know that, or the contractor may not tell us everything. You know, sometimes we don't have all the information given to us, but we try to go out and make sure that all those are correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? All right, Travis, again, thank you for your presentation. Gentlemen,
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'll entertain a motion to receive the presentation.
Mr. Chairman, so move.
All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Mr. Burns? 4-0. Maybe you were gonna object to it. I don't know.
I had my pencil on it.
All right. This brings us to item 7, scheduled public hearings tonight. We do have one tonight from BDI, Economic Development Incentive. This will be presented by our county manager, I think, along with our Director of Economic Development, Mr. Brandon Root. Evening, good to see you, Brandon. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chairman Britton said, Brandon and I will, with the board's blessing, co-deliver this presentation ahead of the public hearing. And it's an exciting opportunity to share an update. From my perspective, from the county's perspective, economic development has been something that this board has, I think, led the charge in transforming. For your last 2 strategic planning work sessions in March of both 2025 and 2026, economic development was the top priority. And that's because there's been a period of stagnation and a period of really very critical need developed in the world of economic development. A lot of, I think, investments have been made to try to get Burke County in a position where we could see job growth and tax-based growth. And a lot of what we just heard from the tax administrator in the revaluation process, outside of revaluations in Burke County, there has not been a lot of change in our tax base, which is an indication that there hasn't been a significant amount of private capital investment in our community. We know that housing growth has been slow. We know that our top 10 taxpayers has really been unchanged for the last decade. And I think the data is clear that really in the last quarter of a century, following the globalization and NAFTA and some of the excess of textiles and furniture, there hasn't been as quick of a remedy to the reinvention of our economy maybe as we had hoped. And I think that with the leadership of the county commissioners, your priority on economic development policy, we're starting to close this gap and understand that tax base and jobs, when done properly in the right place, as we all like to say, at the right pace and the right types of companies coming into our community and making investment, that can be ultimately the tide that lifts all ships. When we talk about economic development, really we're talking about upward economic mobility as well as tax base. We know that a company that has $100 million tax value is the equivalent of 16,000 homes. So they don't demand more governmental service or burden, but they help alleviate the tax burden from many other homeowners and taxpayers. And so I think it's a big part. And when you look at our total tax base here in Burke County, we've lagged behind some of our surrounding communities. And I think, again, with the leadership of this board, we've understood that competitiveness as well as the strategic advantage that the state of North Carolina has placed us in. We continue to be a state that has the lowest long-term fixed cost and income tax rates, corporate income tax rates that are some of the lowest in the nation. We have non-unionized labor. And I think our General Assembly has done an incredible job of creating an environment, an ecosystem where corporate citizens can be successful. When we don't see the growth in the tax base that is sometimes required, that really impacts our revenue generation capacity. And so, there's a certain cost, and as we've seen through the budget process, with inflation and other labor capital cost escalations, that really puts an additional burden on existing resources. And so, the way that we're able to do that while keeping taxes low for our citizens is to really grow that commercial tax base and that industrial tax base to help fund government and generate that revenue capacity. When we start talking about economic development policy, I think we all know that manufacturing is a good fit for our labor force. It's a good fit for our our ability to meet the company's needs. It's got a ripple effect of somewhere between 4-to-1 to 6-to-1 with supply chain, and it really is the foundation for what builds a long-lasting, sustainable economy with living wages. We also know that Burke County, over a multi-year period, saw a contraction of our economy and a shrinkage in GDP. So we're in a period of rising prices and inflation. The sum of all goods and services produced in Burke County saw a decline and did not recover as we came out of the pandemic at the same rate as some of our neighboring counties. We also know that there was significant investment. This is from EDP&C, and it's their community investment report. And from 2023 to 2025, there were significant capital investment, private capital investment in the region. But Burke County, unfortunately, was unable to really capture any of that here at about $29.2 million. So I'm excited. We've seen the policy change, the point of emphasis from our Board of Commissioners, and I think it's starting to return some of those dividends to the community. I think the Project Arlington, which is what the scheduled public hearing for tonight is, this board has been briefed on many times. We've published this public hearing and advertised it for folks to come and speak. And I want to invite Brandon up to tell you a little bit about the company, but I think that it's one of many to come. I'm excited about what the next really Q3 and Q4 of this calendar year could look like for our economy and for economic development as a policy matter for this board. Project Arlington is an exciting project because it repurposes an existing building that's been vacant for some time. It's about a $15 million investment, with about 7 of that being NNI in our community. Create 64 high-paying jobs, almost $60,000. And I think that when you hear a little bit more about the company from Brandon in a moment, you'll see that it's a good fit. The state of North Carolina has also offered a roughly $950,000 incentive package. What we're asking this board to consider tonight is 50% of taxes paid for a 4-year term at our current tax rate, and that obviously would change as we go through a revaluation cycle and likely changing the county's tax rate. But a cumulative grant over a 4-year cycle, a 4-year period of about $61,000. Obviously, if the company invested more, that could be more. But that would be 50% for 4 years is what would be recommended. And Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like Brandon to come up and just tell us a little bit about the company, and then you can have your public hearing.
Well, good evening. Yeah, thank you, Brian, for introducing the incentive package here, and appreciate the board entertaining it. This company has just been phenomenal and a pleasure to work with. We've worked with the owner of the company. They're a 4-generation family-owned domestic manufacturing company. All of their products have been made in the United States of America, made in the USA, and with any luck and with your support, maybe we can say that's made in Burke County, right? That's the goal here. So it's also just very clearly evident that the company cares deeply about their employees. They're very committed to that corporate social responsibility, to do profit sharing annually with the employees, and again, pays significantly higher wages than the county median. The median household income for a household in Burke County is the $49,020, which is the metric we're beholden to through the Department of Commerce. And as Brian said, the average wage for a single worker at this company is almost $60,000. So there's high quality jobs. Without revealing too much information, they are a manufacturer of point of purchase displays. So they manufacture you go into say a Walmart and you see a nice display that's sort of not on the shelf, right? Kind of a standalone display. These are sort of the products they manufacture there. And so they're really high end, take a lot of different skill sets to pull together. And then So they're very, very solid company. Nothing in economic development is guaranteed, right? We are feel very good about this company and this client, and feel very confident that they like Burke County. And this incentive package does help us make that case that they should come here. So I don't know if you guys have any questions for me. That's what I have to say.
All right, thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, any questions, or Brandon, thank you. Any questions for Brandon or our manager?
Yeah, let me just ask, so what we're saying is this is our offer from Burke County, but they perhaps are still kind of shopping around a little bit, or we're still gonna try to be closing the deal with them, I guess.
Yeah, it's so in North Carolina you have to have established but for. So but for the government stepping in and providing incentives, the company would not have chosen to locate in Burke County or North Carolina, Burke County. Every level of government can justify the but for. But that's exactly right. This project is currently competitive with another county in Virginia, who is very similar in makeup and. We all like to think our community is unique, but in terms of population, average wage, they're pretty competitive with us, right? We feel like, again, they are very keen on investing in Burke County. We need to help them make the business case. And then, sort of the building is owned by a property owner who's not local, and that always also presents a challenge. So, but yes, that is correct, that it is still a competitive project.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would just like to say I'm really excited about what all we're generating now. Just like the board has economic development, we need it, and you guys are doing a heck of a job. I mean, this is good news. This is stuff we can get excited about, and the community can get excited about. And we're starting a culture where things are getting better. We're bringing in all the right people, and everybody's getting on the same page. And man, we got some exciting times ahead. Y'all know me; I'm always cheerleading, but it's true, man. You got to speak it in there. Thank y'all for Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, question, comment?
Brandon, if you could just real briefly describe the 50% of the 55-cent tax, 55.5% tax rate, and how that applies to this currently and then going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's based on net new taxable investment. You heard Brian say that it's a $15 million investment, so the company is going to be spending $15 million. But since it's an existing building, the building owner is currently paying the taxes on it. We're only counting the net new, which is about $7 million. The investment schedule there is the investment provided by the company according to when they're going to do upgrades to the facility and bring in the new personal property. So you see year one, right, we're not going to do any tax incentive likely because they are buying the facility that already has property taxes on the books. Year two, they invest $4 million new dollars, and then that is a cumulative effect on the overall grant. So it's 50% of taxes paid. So in North Carolina, tax abatement is illegal. We cannot absolve a company or an entity of paying their taxes. You have to pay your taxes. It's a really good way to ensure that it's performance based, right? So we're only giving you 50% back of what the taxes you actually pay are. And so it is this illustration here is it is that an illustration, right? But it's only going to be 50% of actual taxes paid. At the end of the 4-year period, this agreement goes away, and we will collect 100% of the net new value of the tax revenue.
So I just want to make sure I understand that everybody in the audience and at home understands that reduction in the tax rate is on new investment. It's not. We're not just saying this company is coming to town and they're going to pay half the taxes. It's on new investment that they bring for a period of 4 years.
Yes, sir. Yep. It just helps ease their entry as they're spending a lot of capital all at once. Helps ease their burden to come into the community and makes us more competitive. Yes, sir.
Well, to cap all that off, I want to say I'm really excited about the possibility of them coming, and thank you for all your work. And Mr. Manager, thank you for all your work getting us here.
Other questions? Seeing here none, at this time, I will open the public hearing and invite Dr. Welch, you have a comment you'd like to make, I believe.
Yes, wanted to say that as you look at this, you've heard a lot about the company, but I think it's also important to think about the types of jobs. As an advanced manufacturing facility, you're leveraging metalworking skills. And with economic development, there are no guarantees in the future. Companies can come and go. But when you build a skill set in your workforce, even if a company comes and goes, you're able to attract other companies because of the skill base you've built. I've seen that happen in other places. So the actual building of that skills in the workforce and the type of jobs that we're building here is something that carries forward in our county. And I think that type of job is really important. The other part of that is at Western Piedmont, we're working with a Good Jobs Initiative. We're very focused on high demand, high wage jobs, and these jobs fit that very well. And we look at the mix of programs and how we're working with Burke County Public Schools and how we lift people up out of poverty. And this is the type of jobs that help us do that. It brings it in. So again, that's something that we are focused on. It fits very well in the mix of programs that the college offers. It fits very well in a mix of programs that would make us attractive going forward. And I think that type of job is really important. And this company fits that very well with what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Welch. Anyone else here tonight to speak to this matter? Seeing, hearing no one else, at this time I'll close the public hearing. And gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the proposed economic development incentive package for Project Arlington per NCGS 158.7.
Thank you, Commissioner Barry. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand.
Here, here.
4-0, Madam Clerk. All right, thank you very much. Again, Brandon, thank you, and Mr. Manager for bringing this to us. Thank you for the work you've done so far, and we all are very hopeful that it comes to fruition. This brings us to item number 8, informal public comments tonight. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
We do not.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, that brings us to a consent agenda. Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Because no pre-agenda in August, we are not presenting a consent agenda tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to item number 10. We have several items for decision tonight. The first one comes from our county manager, the fall 2026 Citizens Academy applicants. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move quickly as this board's very familiar with our Citizens Academy. We'll be launching our third cohort in the fall. Excited about that. You all opened the application portal at your last meeting. We are still working hard. Our public information office today issued some more marketing and recruitment documents. We're going to continue to try to do that between now and your pre-agenda in September ahead of the fall kickoff. But as we've talked about many times, the Citizens Academy is about creating awareness and advocacy, as well as receiving feedback and having a government that's really participatory with our community. We've designed a 6-week program similar to the second cohort that finished in the spring of 2026, and it was really, we think, a successful project. We do survey folks and have made a little bit of change to the layout into the curriculum as we move through those 6 weeks. But currently we have 6 applicants. We're optimistic that between now, it's only been open for a couple of weeks, given the calendar of how our July meeting and this meeting fell. But we're optimistic that we're going to get that number closer to the 20 slots that we think is a best case scenario. These are the 6 applications we have on file as of today. And we would ask that you appoint these 6, as well as keep the application portal open to your pre-agenda in September. And with your permission, we would ask that this would also be an action item at pre-agenda, because we are scheduled to start before your regular September meeting, and we would need to appoint any additional applicants at that time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, any questions on our Citizens Academy? Seeing here none, gentlemen, you have the names of the applicants in front of you for approval. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the selection of Steve Buchanan, Patrick Healy, Kelly Johnson Michaels, Mary Hendricks, Donna Strader and Felicia Lingerfeld as the fall 2026 class for Burke County Citizens Academy. And further, to grant a residency waiver if we need it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Berry. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Also from our manager, fiscal year 26-27 budget amendment number 3, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, because we didn't have a consent agenda, this is being presented as an item for decision. A fairly routine capital item in our Parks and Recreation Department, a request to move $68,000 from existing capital reserve. These are two items that we've been saving for over the last 3 years. A portion of that will be used to buy a new Kubota lawnmower for Parks and Rec. That is off state contract, so it has state contract pricing. And the remainder of this amendment would be for parking lot improvements at Reed Park and finish some of the enhancements that the team there have been doing. As you all recall, last year we had a grant to do lighting of the fields, and this would be some parking lot improvements. So the total request is $68,000. It's no additional appropriation. That is sitting in capital reserve, and we've been setting aside dollars for the last 3 years. So happy to answer any questions you may have on that budget amendment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager, and we're glad to have some of our Parks and Rec folks with us tonight. And so, guys, we can give them some grueling questions about these expenses if anybody wants to do that. Any questions on these items? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I approve the budget amendment number 3 as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Stroud. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Also coming from our manager tonight, Burke County and Black Mountain Foster collaboration. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would, Corey is here as well. And so if I would consider this a co-delivery similar to the economic development item as the board has questions. But I'm super excited to be a small part of the team to put this together, and similar to economic development policy and the Board of Commissioners strategic plan as it relates to jobs and tax base. I think this board has also taken a point of emphasis with our child welfare system and specifically improving, dealing with some of the underlying root causes of what drives it, but ultimately taking a real interest in how it's currently working and how we may invest into making improvements there. And so the idea is really for the last year or so, there's been an evaluation process, and tonight's consideration with a contract with Black Mountain Children's Home is an attempt to vertically integrate the child welfare system and I think fundamentally transform how it works in Burke County for children that that are experiencing abuse, neglect, and dependency from the time that they are unfortunately required to come into the system and really navigating all the way through. It gives Burke County a much more efficient, but also a much more dynamic level of control about what that experience is like, so that we can, we believe, ultimately end up with higher reunification rates, more stable foster care placements, and better outcomes for children, leading to a lower number of children in care. I'll walk you through why I think this has been such a big part of this board's strategic plan over the last year. That it started with a hyper intentional effort on awareness. It's hard to make improvements to something where there's not a level of awareness really at all levels of this organization. Back in the summer, about a year ago, June 2025, in this room, the board made a commitment to bring in different folks, organizations, professionals that were part of the child welfare system, nonprofits, judges, guardian ad litems. You may remember Hope, who was a foster youth. We've had Amber, who runs a nonprofit, Jeff Marburger from One More, One Less. We had a district court judge. We had a foster parent who talked about the impact. Corey and his team, obviously, we had Garrett, who's a foster care employee. So I think the board was interested in hearing from all members and all participants and through multiple lenses of what is kind of going on in Burke County and how does it currently work, to really have a fundamental understanding. And what kicked that June 2025 campaign off was not really understanding why in Burke County we had such a higher level of foster care youth than other counties in North Carolina. I think we all agree it's an unfortunate reality that we even have to have a child welfare system, and that children may experience abuse, neglect, dependency. But for the role that Burke County government has to play in that, why in Burke County do we have an unproportionately high number of children, and what could we do from a public policy perspective to try to impact that? And we knew that for communities of our size, at the time, 185 children in care. That's grown to about 215 as we stand here today. That was higher than we really understood. And so when we took a deeper dive, we understood and could see that the number of claims that came into Burke County Department of Social Services was higher, substantially higher than the state average per 1,000 children. We learned that the number of substantiated claims was also much higher. We further learned that of the substantiated claims, the social work team had to make the incredibly difficult decision at a rate double that of the state and federal average to take a child into care. When you dig deeper, then we saw data that demonstrated that once a child was taken into care, the length of stay was much longer. Our reunification rate was lower than the state average, and you're able to start to, I think, envision this. These challenges where there's not really a behavioral health ecosystem to help reunite families. So we have, the root causes that we've, I think, been able to determine, largely driven by poverty and substance use disorder. This map is something that we've been able to put together over the last year. Each of those dots on that map indicate a child that's came into care through the child welfare system, through Child Protective Services, and that's layered over a map that was built through the 911 system for substance use overdoses. And the point is to indicate that the clear root cause is poverty and substance use that's driving the foster care intake system. And then because we don't have a behavioral health ecosystem and the clinical provisions for social workers and foster care providers to use, they stay in the system for 1,238 days, and that's what grows. There's more children coming in each month, typically, than are able to make it to permanency, and there's reasons for that we think through this vertical integration project that we're going to be able to at least improve, fully correct or remedy maybe a dream that we're chasing, to make as big of an impact on children and young people that we can. But we think we understand what is needed. And so we've been working very diligently to, quote, build the team, bring in the folks that have a meaningful role in trying to make some transformational improvements in this world. And Black Mountain Home right at the top is what we're asking you to consider this evening. This idea of vertical integration will largely rely on Black Mountain and their expertise for the recruitment, the licensing, the training, and most importantly, the support of foster homes here in Burke County. We currently have between 11 and 13 that are active. We believe that we can substantially grow that number with their help and experience. And that will help both our staff and these children not have to be sparsed out across the country, keep our foster care social workers closer. And we also believe that foster placement in a home is a much better environment than the alternative of congregate or some type of other institutional type placement. But you can see all of these are folks that we believe play a vital role. The other part of the Black Mountain contract that's equally important is a partnership with Anuvia, which is a clinical-based group that will literally come to Burke County, have services here that do not exist today. So that social workers will have referral opportunities in real time, much quicker than what is available today. And we think that will help, again, reunify and repair families. So we're incredibly excited. We're not aware of anyone else in the state that's following this model. We think that Burke County is being a leader, and we're optimistic that we are going to increase the number of licensed foster homes. We're going to expand, shorten the amount of time that's required for these assessments and services, improving safety, reducing time to permanency, increasing reunification where it's possible. These are the types of services that we know will be offered here now that maybe not available today. And then I've talked about the goals, but we think they're very measurable. We think that they're very, we think that they're industry best practices. And we also think that ultimately, even though it's not the primary goal, an unintended benefit, but a clear benefit, will be positive economic return to our organization that right now is going out to these congregate institutional type settings, which is obviously very expensive, and 100% local dollars. So excited to present this to you. We have Stoney Blevins from Black Mountain here with us today, as well as Corey, who can speak much more to the details of the operations and mechanics of this system. But we think that it's an exciting opportunity and will make real change, hopefully in a short period of time. I'm happy to answer questions you all may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Corey, Mr. Blevins, any comments you guys would like to make? All right.
Come on up there, Bo.
One of the first conversations I ever had with Brian when he got here, when he asked, why do we have so many kids in care? And I told him this probably about 100 times since then, but lots of times when we get involved in a family's life, the things we're asking them to do, it would be easier for us to ask them to go to the moon. So I think as a child welfare system, like, we have to give families a way to work us out of their life. And I think this is an opportunity to really provide a transformational way for us to impact children and families in this county in a way that we haven't been able to do in the past. So I guess my biggest comment is I appreciate the support of the board, Brian, and the community, and thinking outside the box and trying to do something different. And I think this has a chance to really make a difference.
Thank you, Corey. All right, gentlemen. Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment. Corey and you guys, I'm on the Department of Social Services Board, and we met this past week and or Monday, and it's kind of the same thing we hear every time he comes and presents for us. But one of the things that stood out, and Corey, you may have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what was said was out of this year so far, so let's just say 180 days, that was it 111 days we've had a child that was overnight in our building? Is that close?
It's 100 and something. Yeah.
I think I heard 111, and if you put yourself in those kids' place and you think how horrible that is, that they're staying, that's the only place they have to stay. Just think if you were working in that building, how incredibly difficult that is on the staff. Now you've got multiple people having to spend the night and take care of these kids. And there was an instance recently that we were talking about, that a young person had been in that office for a very long time. I think reached a maximum amount of time they could stay, and the only placement that could be found, I haven't followed up. I'm curious what's going on with that person, but was way out west somewhere. And the saddest part is this person was actually doing quite well in our care in the building, was maintaining a job and had some stability, and just, there was no option. They had to go to Utah. And so we thank you to Black Mountain Children's Home for this opportunity to partner. It's a huge deal for these kids mostly. I always like to talk about the money into things, but what's going on with our these 215 kids is just awful. So hopefully this economic development and all the opioid abatement that we're working on, and then partnerships with folks like this are all gonna, in hopefully a couple of years we see a huge drop in that. So thanks to everybody that's working on that.
I want to add to that too, Mr. Chairman. Brian's exactly right. I think we're at a reset right now in everything we're doing economically and with our kids. Until we can get our kids, taken care of, that's really the value of our whole community. And if we don't have that value, where we're taking care of the least of these, and all of us can do that. My plea is to the churches too. I think this is a time where we can look at ourselves and say, hey, how do we want to address this as a community collectively, and go all in on that. And I think once we get that right, everything's like Brian says, we just going to be booming from there, because we got our house in order, and we got to get our kids in order. And that's a big thing.
Other comments? Brian, as I look at your slides, I think that first slide, and all the complexity of that, the one thing that comes to mind, the only other graphic I've seen you produce was the, and gentlemen, some of you may have been here, was that Helene graphic. And this problem is as complex and difficult as Helene ever dared to be. And echo what the rest of the guys have said. Thank you for your work, your thinking out of the box, working together to try to come up with some new things that we believe will make a difference to the lives of these kids. So, gentlemen, you've heard the information. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between Burke County and Black Mountain Home for Children, subject to final review by the county attorney, and authorize the county manager to execute the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Trout. All those in favor signify by uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk.
Thank you,
Again,
guys.
Thank you very much. Brings us to decision item number 4 from the tax administrator, tax collection final settlement report for the period ending July 31, 2026. Travis.
Hard for me to follow that up, but that's a great project, and everybody's part of it here at Burke County. We're really looking forward to seeing that be a success. So everything we do is important to make that work. So appreciate the board backing that up. We have our collections through the first month of our fiscal year here. We have a budgeted amount of $62,587.42, and we have collected $4,106,188 so far, with a $58,480,188 remaining. So it's just the first month. But it's the first month of the discount. We have been busy in the collections office, so I commend my staff for been working hard and diligently in there. Our discounts, our actuals are $35,373 so far. We've collected $106,537 in delinquent taxes, with $593 remaining, $593,463. Our interest and fees collected is $12,728, with $316,272 remaining. Our current year amended levy is $55,229,343 for the property tax. Current year collected $5,858,513. And then we have a remaining of $49,370,513. Our motor vehicle collection so far is $571,282, with $4,885,575 remaining. And our combined fire district collected amount is $802,925, with $7,335,000.48.
Any questions? I see it here now. I'll entertain motion to accept that release and refund for that.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Accept the tax collection
Yeah.
report as presented.
Motion to accept the tax collection report as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Continuing on from the tax administrator, tax release and refund report for a period ending July 31, 2026.
Thanks, sir. Our reported amount was $7,930,696.48. We rebilled $6,668,543.49, and with a net release of $1,261,802.77, with no refund amounts. And our VTS refunds over $100 was $143.48.
Thank you, sir. Did have a question, but I'm trying to get something to jog my memory here. Give me just a second. Maybe. The description, I wanted you to take just a minute to refresh our memories as to.
I may have to refresh mine if I don't. Know. Let's see. Let's see what the comes.
Yeah, it followed this deceased list.
Yeah, it's a big month. When we roll over, we have a lot of PE feet, like Mr. Britton.
Okay, well, we'll should have wrote that down. We'll carry on, gentlemen. You've heard the report. What's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the tax release and refund report as presented.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. And carrying on with the tax administrator, order to collect 2026 taxes. Mr. Administrator.
So we have our order to collect for this upcoming year. We have county taxes will be $55,112,368. Our other county charges and fees will be $4,002,794. Our fire district taxes, late list penalties will be $7,508,488. Our municipal taxes and late list penalties is $4,440,146. And we have a formatting error here at the bottom that should be $71,063,796 is our total amount to be collected.
All right, thank you, sir. Gentlemen, you've heard the information. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to order the tax administrator to collect current and prior years' delinquent taxes on real and personal property. Further authorize the chairman to execute the order on behalf of the board.
Thank you, Commissioner Barry. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you again, Travis, for being here.
Yeah, if you get that description, I'll be glad to look at it, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, this brings us to item number 11, reports and comments. But just before we go there, we're going to take about a 2-minute recess and then we'll come right back, okay? All right, gentlemen, I'll call us back to order. You said. This will bring us to item number 1, DSS Department updates for the period ending June 30, 2026. This will be presented by Corey Fisher-Wellman, our DSS Director. Evening, Corey. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I just wanted to thank you guys again for your support of our project with Black Mountain. Those of you that know me at all know I don't get too pumped up one way or the other about most things. I usually stay pretty even keel, but this is certainly something that has me very excited. So really excited to get started. This not quite as exciting as the other project, but we'll run through it anyway. Just a little bit of our personnel update. You can see there again. This slide is sort of taken. It's always just a moment in time. It's the day I asked my assistant to send me the list. So on that day, we had 14 open positions, which equates to about a 7% vacancy rate. It's a little bit higher than in previous months, but I do think anywhere from like 4 to 8 is pretty normal for a DSS, and I think we've been pretty well in that range for the last probably close to a year. And even though it's at a 7% vacancy rate, if you look there on the right-hand column, you can see 4 of those positions had at least a conditional or final offer. So once those were filled, that brings you back down to a 5% vacancy rate. We continue to have pretty significant openings, more than probably in the history of DSSs. Openings in economic services, those continue to be very difficult jobs with changing federal and state legislation. So we're not alone in having difficulty filling economic services jobs. We're working internally to sort of figure out how we can revamp and support staff to make sure we're doing the best we can with what we have. For the month of June, we did have 7 separations and 6 hirings. You can see there the breakdown of those. And then in terms of operational, sort of a boring slide, but I say every time, I will say this every month that I can for as long as I'm here. Every month that we meet our MOU outcomes in economic services, I think it's a really good thing. So every month that happens, I'm going to tell you it happened. So
Can you speak to, another component of HR one is counties that don't meet these qualitative standards moving forward likely will have punitive damages?
So, yeah, let me get, that's in F&S. I do want, so we'll go to food nutrition. So, you know, part of changes under HR one were related to admin costs of food and nutrition benefits, and the counties did lose a 25% admin cost, which that'll go into effect in October of this year. But then on top of that, the beneficiary cost has historically always been footed by the federal government, but there is legislation that if counties aren't within or under a 6% error rate, the counties have to, or state has to pick up a portion of the benefits, and North Carolina has chosen to push those costs to counties. So initially when this came out, North Carolina had a 10% vacancy or a 10% error rate, which would have put you in one of the highest pay categories you could be in. But in the last 6 months, I will say that the state has done an incredible job in working with counties and having a really focused effort on reducing the error rate in North Carolina. And North Carolina's error rate is down under 7%. It needs to get under 6%. But we had the largest drop, or the third largest drop in error rate across the country. So to Brian's point, being timely, not making errors, processing is all important in making sure that people get the services they need. But also it has a significant financial burden that is shared across the state, and every county plays a role in that. And certainly larger counties play a bigger role because they have more cases in the case pools. But these things are of the utmost importance now, probably more than they ever have been before. So, we take our timeliness and our accuracy very seriously. And I think our Amanda Grady is our assistant director who oversees economic services. She's fantastic. She does a really good job of making sure that her teams are on top of these reports and making sure that the cases are done quickly and cases are done correctly. So you can see from both of these slides that we continue to have a pretty consistent number of both recipients and applications per month. That being said, that the work here is continuing to become more and more complex with less and less funding to support counties in administering these funds. In terms of our adult services, you can see there we continue to have, we're responsible for 77 adults who need guardianship and don't have any other person to serve in that role. And we have that does not include 17 additional adults that are contracted out through a third party. Our SA and home numbers continue to also to be fairly high, and we are continuing to serve a large number in our community alternatives program as well, although we do have capacity for more. And we mentioned sort of during the budget process, that is one of the only non-mandated programs that we provide at DSS, and it's also a revenue generating program. So we try to keep those slots as full as we can, but those referrals we're at the mercy of the state for receipt from referrals. And then in terms of APS reports you receive throughout the month, we did receive 40 reports in the month of June, 21 of which were screened in for additional follow-up. CPS reports, I was just here a couple weeks ago, so not much has changed since then. The summer is a slower month for CPS reports. We're sort of at the end of that. August will tick up a little bit, and then you can see there in September of 25 that things in September will really tick up. So that sort of goes well with the next slide, which talks about our CPS caseload. So I think our staff have worked really hard to continue to bring down caseloads, which, taking advantage of these months where we do have less reports and working through and ensuring that we're completing cases efficiently and on time. Again, as always, we mentioned last month, the backside of that is that as you work through CPS cases more efficiently, you're likely to see more entries into foster care, and our numbers do continue to be fairly high. Again, this number is a point in time, so on that moment in time, there were 217 kids experiencing care, but I do think one thing better than the last several months is there were more exits than entries in the month of June, which is a really good thing, and hopefully that continues. That's how we can get our numbers down. And lastly, just wanted to give a little bit of update about where we are with PathNC. We talked about, we went into PathNC, which is a statewide data management system for intake and CPS intake, so CPS reports and CPS investigations at the end of last year, and we will go in for all other programs in child welfare on September 8th, there has been a little bit of a delay, but one thing, when we went in intake and assessments, we were able to go new cases only. So any CPS case we had open, if it was already open, we worked it in the old system. If we got a new report, we worked it through Path and C, and that allowed our staff to sort of ease into this system. It's so change is difficult. So even if this is the best system in the world, change is difficult. So when we move in for everything else in child welfare in September, you do not get to work new cases only. All cases will go. So on September 8th, everything we do will go into Path. So, and there is no legacy system. So we have to, all those children that are experiencing foster care, we have to rebuild all those cases in Path. So it's a really significant undertaking for our staff. It's certainly anxiety provoking for staff. It's anxiety provoking for leadership. If those of you who have been around a little while, the state tried this several years ago with NC Fast. It didn't go great. I think this is going better, but our implementation date is delayed because there's bugs in this system too. So it's just something to sort of have on your radar, or maybe just to be thinking about our staff on September 8th when we roll into the system. I do think the point of a statewide system is it allows access to stuff in real time. So, county boundaries are just artificial lines and people move around. And by having a statewide system, we're able to more quickly ensure safety for kids because we have immediate access to records without having to call a county and get their records and ask all those things. It also allows for greater oversight from DHHS because they have access to our records in real time. So continue to try to keep you updated in this month over month, but we are almost to our go live date. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about anything that we talked about.
All right, thank you, Corey. Any questions for Corey on his report tonight?
Corey, just briefly, will you remind me what the difference in the SAN home and the CAP program is?
Well, you're gonna have to get stony up here.
It almost sounded kind of similar to me the last time I'd asked about it, and I thought, obviously it's not, because it would help us if they were using the CAP.
They're both intended to help people stay in their homes.
Yeah.
Special assistance helps pay for certain things, and there's a Medicaid component of that too, where I'm trying to figure out how to differentiate them in a way that makes sense. But
I guess there's no way for us to take SAN home and go to the CAP program where we can actually get paid for that.
So, like I said, CAP is the only thing we do that we're not statutorily mandated to do. So SAN home we are statutorily required to do. But I think CAP is more revenue generating. I'll do a better. Sorry, it's been a long day. I'll do a better job of sending you some breakdown of the two programs that differentiate them. But they do both exist to help people remain in the community without having to go into more expensive facilities.
Other questions? All right, seeing here none. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to accept the June DSS report as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the June DSS report as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor signify by up to 10, 4-0, Madam Clerk. Again, thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, that brings us to item number 2, reports and comments. I'll open the floor for reports and comments tonight. We'll start over with Mr. Attorney. All right, Mr. Stroud.
I'd just like to say how much I appreciate all of our commissioners here and, just addressing the public and everybody that's really trying to really make our community the best it can be. We're really trending in some good areas and things are being transparent. All the commissioners, Brian Berry, all the things that he does, being real open. What Randy does as part of the COG and just bringing us up as a region and understanding all those dynamics. Brandon and our county manager, what a privilege we have to have these kind of people in Burke County. And then our chairman, we just got great people that are working here all together. And I just wanted to say that. And I appreciate all our commissioners and appreciate Morgan and our attorney. And, we've got a good board and we're trending in the right directions. And we're excited to work for the public and our people here.
Thank you, Commissioner Stroud. Mr. Burns?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Okay, Mr. Manager?
That's okay.
All right. Mr. Berry? Ms. Morgan? All right. And I just have one note that came to us from our friend Robin Nicholson. As most of you know, Robin has been Duke Power's district, Duke Energy's district manager for many years. And most of us have had the privilege of working and knowing with Robin for a long time. And she is retiring, and we've been helping her celebrate here and there at different things and places. And she just sends us a note thanking us for recognizing her career with Duke Energy, and she's looking forward to retirement and appreciates the relationships that she has built over the years. And I have appreciated working with Robin in many different areas. So just bring that to your attention. A few courtesy reminders tonight, gentlemen. Our Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting will be on September the 8th at 3 p.m. Then our regular meeting on the 17th of September at 6 p.m. I would again remind the youth groups that might be interested in coming and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance to please consider doing that, as well as our religious friends who might be willing to come and provide the invocation for us here in our meeting. We'd love for them to do that as well. And with that, I will move on to vacancy announcements. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have several vacancy announcements, and we encourage our community citizens to get involved. So we have openings with our Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, the America 250 NC Committee, Burke County Public Health Advisory Board, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, the Dangerous Dog Appeal Board, Drexel Planning, ETJ, Hickory Planning Commission, and the Local Emergency Planning Committee. And we just encourage people to get involved. Applications can be found on our website, or they can reach out to the clerk's office.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And just as Morgan says, if you can help on any of these committees or boards, please consider doing that, and we'll be glad to help you get connected. Gentlemen, tonight we do have a need for a closed session. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential, to discuss threatened or pending litigation, to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to discuss economic development matters, to discuss contractual matters and acquisition, and to discuss personnel matters as authorized by NCGS 143.318.11A1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I would invite our Economic Development Director to join us tonight in closed session. With that, gentlemen, I'll accept that motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. And with that, gentlemen, we'll move into closed session. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate your participation in our meeting, and we look forward to seeing you again. All right, gentlemen, we'll consider ourselves seated back in the open session. I'll announce that no action was taken in closed session. And with that information, I think we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Barron. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That is everybody. It's 4-1. Thank you very much. Have a good, safe evening. Be careful. I believe the road is going to be wet.